talking about phonemic awareness. Let's start off with the question of what is phonemic awareness? Well, it's the ability to manipulate sounds within words. That idea that a word is made up of individual sounds. So think of cat, k, at. It has 3 individual sounds that are blended together to form the word cat. Phonemic awareness, this idea that words are made up of individual sounds, happens at the base of the reading pyramid. We need to have our base in place before we move up to the other skills, such as phonics, decoding. That's when we attach letters to those sounds. The development of phonological awareness is part of a continuum. Here's a chart here that I'll put up, and you'll see that phonemic awareness is the last part of the chart. Think of it like steps that we're going up. The first step that people take when they're learning to separate words into sounds is this awareness of rhymes. And think of what we're really doing. So we have the word cat, and then that k, we're just taking it off. We're deleting that sound, and we're inserting a new sound. Say it's a h, like hat. So at, cat becomes hat. And then the next skill that's at the same level of difficulty is alliteration, where we are keeping the first sound the same. So think Peter, piper, pick to peck, a pickle peppers. So it's that awareness of the p at the start of each word. The second level skill on our chart here is called sentence segmentation. This is the awareness that a sentence is made up of individual words. I remember having this experience when I was learning Spanish, and I was talking to a fluent speaker, and they just had this rapid fire language coming at me, and it was really hard for me to separate their speech into the individual words. And you'll see that phonemic awareness has different skills within it, so we can use these skills to help kids develop phonemic awareness. One skill is deletion. So if I have the word cat and I take away the k, what am I left with? At. That's deletion. So we can play little games with the kids using that idea of deleting one sound, and then what are we left with? And that can help them to develop the phonemic awareness. Another thing we can do is this is a little more difficult, but we could use insertion, and that will be inserting a sound. So for example, if I have the word fat, I could insert an L, an O, and then it becomes the word flat. Blending is another skill within the phonemic awareness subset, the idea that we'll have those individual sounds and then blend them together. So bat, b, at are the individual sounds, but then they're blended together to say bat. Now let's talk about when kids are typically hitting the different milestones for phonological skills. When kids are 4, they can enjoy rhymes, through rote imitation of them. So they're not making their own rhymes, but they're enjoying it when we do, and they can repeat back what we say. So you might say cat, hat, sat, and they would have fun repeating that back. Or you might say Peter, piper, pick to peck. But by the age 5, they're actually recognizing the rhymes on their own, and they should be able to clap or count the syllables in words. So you could say, clap out dog, and they would say 1 syllable. Or until, and they would be able to clap out until. By the time they're 5.5, they'll be able to produce a rhyme on their own. You might say, like, tell me a word that rhymes with cat, and they would say hat. Or you could say, they might be able to isolate beginning sounds in a word. So you could say, tell me the first sound that you hear in dog, and they would say d. They will work with blends and onset rhymes. So they would know, b and oat are 2 different sounds, and in tree it would be t and re. They would recognize that re is the sound that you would blend with, that you would use if you're making a rhyme. So like tree, free, me. By age 6, they'll be able to work on the skill of syllable deletion. So for example, we would give them a 2-syllable word like until, and so we would say the word until. Now say it again, but don't say un, and they would be able to say till. By the age 6.5, they'll segment words that have up to 3 or 4 phonemes in them, even blends. So for example, you might say the sounds in the word black, and then you could have them tap it out and they would say b, o, a, k. They can also work on phoneme substitution when they're at 6.5 to build new words without blends. For example, change the k in cat to b in bat. By the age 7, they're working on phoneme deletion, and they can do this at the beginning of a word or at the end of a word. So for example, you might say the word seam. Now say it again without the and they would say see. In my own teaching practice, when I'm working with this idea of the phonics progression and how to best teach it, I look to Dr. Duncan Mill's work. Dr. Duncan Mill has stages of phonics document that they're like progression charts that you can follow as you're teaching. And I'll show you what those are like because I use them all the time. In phase 1 of Dr. Mill's progression charts, these are activities for a child before they begin their formal teaching. So it's before they get to kindergarten. And, how do we get them ready for reading? What are the pre-reading skills? Well, one is we can expect that they'll have conversations with their parents, which are going to build their vocabulary. We will expect that parents are going to read to their kids, which is always wonderful. We'll expect that the kids will have experience and skill with naming objects and actions. They'll be able to chant some nursery rhymes. And if they aren't able to do that, then we'll know now, ding, 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 well, that was a 4-year-old milestone. So if that's not happening, we've got a red flag there. We can expect that they'll know simple word games and nursery, pre-primary kind of little games. They'll have some pre-reading and pre-spelling activities, which might include, maybe they'll know part of the alphabet. When they get to kindergarten, we don't even assume that they know the whole alphabet. They'll have, some simple phonological awareness activities under their belt. And they might, have the ability to spell their own name or, most of their name. When my son got to kindergarten, poor guy, I gave him a 9-letter name, Sebastian. He could spell Seb. It took him a while to get all those letters in there. In Dr. Duncan Mill's stage 2, his phase 2 of the phonics progression charts, that's where we get into the idea of attaching the sound to a symbol. In week 1, he begins with S, A, T, and P. He's done studies and figured out what is the right order to teach the sounds into kids, because you want to go from the simplest sounds to learn to the most complex. And so he has decided that S, T, A, and P are the ones that we start with. And he has them charted out week by week. When we hit phase 3, things get a lot trickier. He's got consonant diphthongs where you have 2 consonants side by side that are making a brand new sound. For example, SH does not say S or H. It says sh, a brand new sound. Then he's also got, you'll notice that there's 3 parts to the chart, and he's got, I guess there's 4, because there's the weeks, the letters that you're going to introduce, then the word building examples. So he gives you lots of example words that you'll be teaching. And then there's this column that says high frequency words. And those ones are not related to what you're teaching, but he says it's the idea that we have to be introducing some sight words as we're teaching, because if the kids want to be able to read connected text, these high frequency words are going to come up right away, whether we've taught them or not. So like an example, the word the is the most common word in English, so we better teach that one right away. On my website, the Flying Cat Academy website, there's a section called Sight Words Explained, and you'll see most, I think there's about 60 videos up there right now, and they're the most frequently sight words, just 1-minute videos that you can watch as you're so before you want to teach a sight word, you can go in and learn about the sight word and how it works. When we're using proper teaching, we're going to be teaching our students the 44 phonemes in English and all 250 ways to write those phonemes. That's right. English has 44 sounds and 250 ways to write them. Just think about CH, for example. CH has 3 different sounds attached to it. It could say ch as in chip, it could say sh as in machine, or it could say k as in Christmas. That's a lot of sounds. Then we have the different ways that they can be represented by letters. So we've got, think of the sound we know that M can make that, but also that MB in the word climb, right? Or MN in autumn. It's also useful to know the different spots where kids are going to get tripped up. And one spot that causes confusion for lots of kids is this idea of voiced and unvoiced pairs. So in English we have, think of B and P. We're using, so if I say the sound of B, it's B. And I've tightened my lips, B. My jaw drops a tiny bit there, B. When I make it, my lips open. So I'm thinking about, like, what is my tongue doing? What's my lips doing? What is the shape of my mouth? What's my jaw doing? Is my vocal cords, are they vibrating or are they not vibrating? And between B and P, it's the exact same formation, and the only difference is that one is voiced, meaning that the vocal cords are vibrating, and one is unvoiced, meaning that the vocal cords are not involved. So make the sound B, and now say P. If I don't make the sound, would you be able to tell which one I'm doing? P. P. Almost impossible, right? This happens with the sound for D and T as well. So with a D, make the sound D, and now T. So everything's being formed exactly the same, and the only difference is that with the D, the vocal cords are vibrating, and with the sound for T, the vocal cords are off. The same thing works with V and F. So say V, and now turn that motor off. Exact same situation of the mouth, the tongue, everything except for the vocal cords, right? And then you can just go down the list here and try the other voiced and unvoiced pairs. So G and K are a pair, Z and S. The TH has the 2 sounds. It's is the motor on, like this. And then when the motor's off, it's thumb. So everything's exactly the same except for the vocal cords being on and off. Then there's this idea of ZH-SH sounds, so vision or hush, and then J and Ch. Now I'm going to teach you one of my favorite Orton-Gillingham drills. It's called the Phonemic Awareness Drill, and I learned it from the Dyslexia Training Institute, and it's an excellent way to help kids develop phonemic awareness skills. You'll need to make some little rectangles that are different colors. I like to have about 4 of each color, and I just keep them in a little box so then the kids can pull them out as they need them. And, you could use glass beads. Anything that has the same shape but different colors is going to work. There are different ways I can use this drill, but let's say I'm trying to teach phoneme segmentation. Then I might take out 3 different tiles, and I would say, what sounds do you hear in the word map? In response, the child would take 2 fingers because each finger is attached to a different brain pathway. We want to activate as much of the brain as we can. And they would touch each of the colored tiles and they would say a, p. Then they'd put all the sounds together, they'd underline it and say map. Another phonemic awareness skill we could work on is phoneme counting. And if you were working on this, you would say, how many sounds do you hear in the word map? And then the student would take 2 fingers and touch each tile saying a, p. And then say there are 3 sounds in map. Another great skill to work on is phoneme deletion. We could have them begin by tapping out the word mat, at, and then underline it and saying mat. And then we could say, what would happen if we removed the from mat and have them actually take away the What are we left with? And then they would tap out at and say at. The word is at. Phoneme matching is another skill that's a great one. on which we can work. So we could have them put down the tiles for map and then tap it and underline it and say it. Then we could do the same thing for the word mat. And then when everything's down there in front of them, we can say, does the word map and mat, do those words start with the same sound? And they're both the same color, so they know right away, yes, they do. Another thing that we can do is work on phoneme rhyming. So if the student has the word map and tiles for the word mat in front of them already, we could say, do map and mat have the same middle and final sounds? And we'll find out that yes, they do have the same middle sound, but they don't have the same final sound. There's different colors there. So that means these words do not rhyme. One thing that I should note is that when we're working on teaching phonemic awareness through all these different skills, it's easiest for the student to work on manipulating that first sound in a word. So if the word is cat, working with the k is the easiest thing to do. Working with the t is the second easiest thing. And the vowel sound, the sound in the middle, that's the toughest. So when you're beginning with kids, it's great to work on the start of the word first. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is Shauna Odette from the Flying Cat Academy.